Here's a picture of a weta in case you haven't seen one before. And there's a good chance you haven't seen one because they're nocturnal. They keep pretty much to themselves. They're not at all sociable. They're related to grasshoppers and locusts and crickets and katydids. But these are the huge, ugly cousins. This is the military grade armour-plated branch of the family. There are dozens of different species of them in different sizes that are adapted to all sorts of different habitats and lifestyles, but their main common feature is that they're ugly. And the biggest ones, the giant wetas, are among the biggest insects in the world, and if you come across one of those when you're not expecting to, they're just terrifying. They're huge, they're ugly, and really, really scary. I know a girl who used to commute to and from work by bus, and one morning she was riding on the bus and she felt something scratch the back of her neck. So she reached round to brush it off, but it seemed to still be there. So she turned to the woman next to her and asked if there was something on her neck. The other woman screamed and leapt out of her seat into the aisle. The bus driver jammed on the brakes. The bus screeched to a halt. My friend sat there absolutely terrified, not knowing what was going on. It turned out that there was a weta sitting on her collar. The bus driver, being responsible for the bus and all its passengers, had to come up the aisle and pluck the weta off her collar and throw it out the window. To the applause of all the passengers, the bus driver instantly attained hero status because wetas are terrifying things. That's the effect they have on people. When you watch the movie Alien or any of its sequels, you should be able to see that the alien creature itself is an extraterrestrial species of weta. And its main feature is that it's indestructible. And I think wetas probably are indestructible. I'm not absolutely sure about this, but I think even if you drove over one in your car and squashed it, its mates would probably come back and reconstruct it during the night and build it bigger and better than it was originally. What I can tell you for sure is that there's a species of weta that lives in the mountains in the snow that can be frozen solid. And when you thaw it out, it comes back to life again. Indestructible. This is one frozen in the snow. When I was a small boy, there were 2 beds in my bedroom. I slept in one of them, and the other one was available to overnight guests if we ever had any, which we seldom did, so it was mostly unoccupied. One morning when I was about 3 years old, my mother was going around doing her housework. She came into my room, gathered up all the sheets and blankets off my bed and dumped them in a big heap on the spare bed. This was at a time when my mother and I were the only people at home during the day, and we used to have lots of fun and we used to play tricks on each other. And on this particular occasion I thought it would be hilarious to hide under this pile of blankets and lie there very still so that my mother would get a huge surprise when she came and moved the blankets away. So I climbed up on the spare bed and crawled under the blankets and lay there very, very quietly. And right in front of my eye, about that far away from the end of my nose, was something that looked exactly like that. Not a blanket of snow, just a blanket with this thing that looked like a little stick sticking out the top of it. I thought, that's an interesting looking thing, and being an inquisitive young boy, I reached over and ran my finger down the spiky end of the stick, and as I did so, the blankets were pushed away a little bit and revealed a huge great weta right there in front of me. I screamed and leapt off the bed in a great big shower of blankets just as my mother was coming back into the room with a pile of new blankets. She threw them in the air and screamed as well. The weta rolled its eyes and thought, oh, here we go again. I was traumatised by that for years afterwards. I think it took my entire childhood to get over that. In fact, I was probably a full-grown adult by the time I finally came to terms with the idea that actually Wetas are pretty harmless. I probably overcame my fear of Wetas because, having been traumatised by one, I paid a lot more attention to them than I might have done otherwise. And what I discovered over the years is that they're really totally harmless. They're basically herbivores, so they don't hunt, they don't attack, they don't fight. They're really quite passive. If you annoy one and provoke one enough, it'll wave its legs around and encourage you to go away. But it seems their main defence mechanism is that they're big and ugly, so no one goes near them. I've developed quite a lot of respect for Wetas, really, in the way that you do for somebody who you realise has been maligned and misunderstood. I used to fear them, but now I find them quite fascinating. I'd go as far as to say I actually quite like them.